Okay, we're going to have a quick discussion on the patient's perception of the pull during the traction treatment. Obviously, when a person is getting decompression, they're getting a mechanical stretching. Sometimes people believe that they have to feel like they're being pulled apart, and that's really a misperception. What we want to make sure that we get the patient properly set on the table with their iliac crest at the split so that the mechanics of the table work in our advantage. Two, we have to make sure that the belt is very tight and comfortably tight, but tight enough that it doesn't slip or create any caudal movement, and that it grasps the patient properly around the iliac crest. When the belt is properly applied, we're going to get a virtual exacting pressure from or tension from the motor to the belt, and the patient's perception of the tensioning of the belt on their waistline will help increase the perception of the pull. Our table has a split segment to it, so the lower part of the body, which is 50% of the body's mass, will move towards the motor. That's an important consideration because it reduces x-axis frictional resistance. And that also is helped in on our table by a variable resistance spring. And so the combination of having the patient tightly bound into the belt, attached to the motor, which is an exacting pull, and the movement of the table will allow all of these attributes to give the patient the best perception of pull. When the patient does not feel that the pull is being sufficient, instead of immediately going to the motor and increasing the force, what we can do is we can alter the tension on the spring so that the table will move more in the caudal plane when the patient is being tugged on. So the patient in one pull may say, "I don't feel much." We then back the spring off slightly, and now the patient's lower body will move with the table and their perception of pull will be increased. Now we want to stay away from being dogmatic about the pulls, how much we're using the force, the high force, or dogmatic about too little force. As long as we have sufficient force to allow the patient perceiving the belt tightening on their waistline and a movement of the table. Again, the table can move up to 5 inches. We don't want the table separating dramatically each pull. We want it to be controlled and the patient's perception of the tension on their waistline to be in configuration with the table moving towards the motor.